And our another Chicagoan is Owen Keehnen. Owen, come on in my basement.
Hi,
Hello there. Owen,
thank you for having me.
oh my gosh, you have talked to a lot of famous people. Tell me, how did you get started doing what you do?
Um, well, I started interviewing people actually because I worked at a bookstore and we would host events. And what happened was, whenever you host a live event at a store, you have to kind of anticipate what happens when people don't have great turnouts. So it started as basically like covering for an awkward moment and saying, I'm really interested to interview you for the local paper. And just sort of, that's when I first started doing it. And I found out it was a really wonderful way to learn a lot of different things. Excuse me.
Oh, so tell me who you've written for or some of your books.
Well, I used to do, I mean, I've interviewed a lot of different people. I used to have a syndicate of um, of gay papers do my stuff. But books, I've done a lot of history, a lot of Chicago LGBTQ history. I worked with Tracy Baim on a book about Chuck Renslow,
Tell
who
who's
was
Chuck
the
Renslow.
founder. He was the founder of International Mr. Leather,
Oh,
co-owner of the Gold Coast. His lover was the erotic artist Etienne. He also was one of the founders of the Leather Archives in Chicago and Museum. Uh, and Tracy and I also did a book with Jim Flint, who is the longtime owner of the Baton and the Continental contests. And we also did one on Vernita Gray, who was a longtime Chicago activist. And I've done things on like I did a book called Dugan's Bistro and the Legend of the Bearded Lady, which was all about uh, the downtown gay disco scene in the 1970s in Chicago. But the thing that's really been getting me lately is I've been really focused on wanting to preserve sort of fragile history. And those are things that are really important to queer history, LGBTQ history, but they're not newsworthy. And that's like with the book I've just finished on these different performance pieces. Oh, thank you. That one. Uh, One of the first piece is Sirens of the Belmont Rocks. And the Belmont Rocks are a perfect example of that fragile history because it was this queer space in the middle of Chicago from the early 1960s until it was demolished in 2003, where people could just be out and be gay in the sun. It were these irregular limestone blocks that the
oh,
LGBT community claimed as their own. And the reason I turned this into a play was because the topography of the Belmont Rocks is very much like a lot of different stages. So
uh-huh.
this is the green area by the Belmont Rocks. So what I wanted to do was make it a sort of staged version of Our Town with kind of different characters from the history, from LGBTQ history, gay men from say the 70s and the 80s and so many who are lost and just get up and express the importance of this place because the importance of this place is all in people's memories. It's not
Yeah.
like it never did anything newsworthy. It was photographed a lot and it was also an important part of a lot of people's stories. But when those people go away, it's not left. And that was the thing that made me want to write about the gay disco scene in Chicago as well.
Okay. Now talk about the rock. Did you
Okay.
ever go to the rocks?
Oh my God, yes. Yes,
I'd be
yes, yes.
disappointed if you hadn't.
No, it was a heady experience.
Oh,
It was when I first approached the Belmont Rocks, I tell you, it was like gaydar from outer space. It was so strong. You felt the strong. Well, you saw the pictures. You felt the
yes.
strongest vibe.
Oh,
You're just like,
I
yeah,
felt it looking at the
yeah,
pictures.
yes. And
Oh,
it was just such a huge part of the LGBTQ community. And this was in the days when all our bars still had blackened windows. We were being gay out in the sun. And the bonding and the sort of camaraderie, I think, that happened in Chicago because of someplace like the Belmont Rocks, I don't think the importance of that can really be overemphasized, you know?
No,
And
I totally agree.
and it's so that's one of the plays in the book.
And you know, every community of a certain size had
Sure.
someplace like that.
Yeah.
You know,
A
here in
queer
Vermont,
space.
we used to have Shelburne Point. You know, that was the place that was isolated, and we could lay out there nude or have fun and in the woods, and we were free to do that. But
Is it
I
still
think
there
every
now?
no, it's not.
Oh.
No.
See, that's the
That
sad thing. And that's the
yes.
sad thing is that makes this, it was such an important part of your history. And that once it goes away, it's, unless something is done to sort of help keep that memory alive, younger LGBTQ people sort of lose that connection.
Oh,
And
you just took the words out of my mouth.
I really think
Yes.
that's how you connect with youth, is just to show them like what people, how did people have fun? Here's what they did to have sex. This is how they hung out. This is what they did. I think that is a really easy way for a younger person or for anyone to sort of put themselves in someone else's footstep of shoes, you know?
Yes. Well, I've been accused by the younger generation. They said, "You guys ruined it for us. You had so much fun." They outlawed everything. Yeah. Okay.
So, and there's another play in the book too that's very Chicago centered. I always wanted to write about Wanda Lust. And Wanda Lust was a very colorful Chicago drag queen in the 70s and was ended up performing all over town and doing shows and then managing Man's Country, the music hall at Man's Country, the bathhouse, which is a big bathhouse in Chicago. Anyway, as Wanda became more famous, what she did was she took her celebrity and became Nurse Lust. That's what you saw in that last picture. And this is another one of Nurse Lust. But what she did was in the dawn of gay men's health, and this is pre-AIDS, what she did was she would drive the VD van, and it was an STD mobile testing unit all around town, park it in the middle of big downtown areas, not downtown, gay bar areas, get the patrons to come out and get tested for STDs. And in the first weekend she did that, she got 1,000 people to get tested for STDs. And if you went with her to get your STD test, she gave you a cookie too. So Nurse Lust was, so anyway, Nurse Lust was really important to this, and then moved to Kansas City to manage the club baths down in Kansas City, and did the same thing there with gay men's health, except there she drove like one of those MASH Jeeps. That was the mobile testing unit there. And then Wanda tragically was murdered in 1980. But this is the sort of fragile history I mean. This story is incredible. And I really wanted to bring in the play presenting Wanda Lust, I really wanted to bring Wanda to life because it's just such an incredible person and such an incredible giving, you know, because of her work actually with STD testing. When AIDS finally did come to Chicago, a lot of gay men's health because of STDs, a lot of the infrastructure was set up. So Chicago had a lot of that in place, but it was because of unsung heroes like this.
All right. So the plays that you have in that book, have any been produced?
No. One of them is very much talking about it, and then, the last 2 years.
All right. I want to read them.
Yeah. I really hope I did the subjects justice. A lot of the problem is I write about I want to write about so many things that I feel it's important to write about, that actually when COVID hit too, I worried that, when people passing away so quickly, you're just like, I'd hate to leave like a bunch of unfinished stuff, So it was motivation to really write about things that I felt were important to be remembered. And that was sort of 3 of the 4 plays came out of that.
All
Another
right.
play in
Oh,
here is about the pansy craze of the 1930 to 1933, which
oh,
was a lot of
well,
fun. Anyway, I'm
we'll,
done.
we'll, we'll have you back. We'll have you back to talk about that because it's fascinating
Oh,
stuff.
sure.
Owen, Russell, show his address one more time so people can look him up. There's Owen Keehnen at .com. Fascinating. Google him. Go on Wikipedia. Oh my. Oh my.